let's work bottom up maybe on the NFC South, because there's plenty of bottom to talk about in the NFC South. New Orleans, 11-1 to win the division at BetMGM, 14-1 in some spots, plus 550 to make the playoffs, 150-1 to win the NFC. Their win total, just 4.5. This feels like a bottom out year for them. I know they drafted a quarterback, but I don't know how much of a belief there is in Tyler Shuck being the guy at the NFL level. A lot of people might theorize that the Saints wouldn't mind having the first overall pick next year because there's a last name that carries a whole lot of weight in that city. And the top quarterback in next year's draft so happens to have that last name, a guy named Arch from the University of Texas. But there's reasons beside just the fact that I just laid out with Arch Manning and the history of the Saints and the Mannings that make sense for betting New Orleans under 4.5 wins and just expecting this team to be absolutely god-awful this year.
Yeah, the Saints are in the running for worst record in the entire league this year, I think, at least in my opinion. They could certainly finish with that. You're counting on Tyler Shuck, not only a rookie quarterback, but someone who, like, that was not a big name coming into this year's draft, Tyler Shuck. He kind of came on late and started to get a little bit more attention and chatter surrounding him. But I don't think he's someone that is going to be a franchise quarterback long-term in the NFL. I mean, you mentioned, Chris, like they could be drafting a quarterback very high in the draft next season to actually get their franchise quarterback. And then you look at like the quarterback room that he's in. Is there going to be any growth there? You have Spencer Rattler and Jake Haener as the other like there's not a veteran in the room there that can really take him on, take Shuck under their wing and really bring them along and teach them. So I think this team is going to struggle from the jump, and it's because of the quarterback position. I don't have much faith in Tyler Shuck whatsoever. You have an aging Alvin Kamara. I mean, he's still solid. He's still fine. But I just don't see this team having, you also have a rookie or first year head coach, right? So there's just so much turnover, so much change, and you would need everything to really click all together very early on, and I just don't see that happening for the Saints at all. So they are 11-1 over at BetMGM to win this division for a reason, and it's because their roster just flat out is not very good. And yeah, I don't see them having any success. Yeah, under 4.5 would be an easy look.
Yeah, I think you mentioned the quarterbacks, and the quarterback room is at the heart of this. It feels like a 1-year roll the dice on what they have there, and an eye toward, if it doesn't work, maybe we end up with a top 5 pick, right? Maybe first overall. I know that's a theory that people put out there. And no, I don't think any NFL franchise, I want to be clear about this, plans to go 3-14. They don't, the players certainly don't want to be that team. But an organization looks at it and says, like you said, we've got a brand new head coach. We got a couple of lottery tickets at quarterback and Shuck, and we've seen Rattler to an extent, but maybe he gets some opportunity this year as well. And if one of those guys jumps out and impresses us and we shock the world and go, 8-9, okay, maybe that changes our outlook on our long-term future. But I think long-term, it's planning to get your quarterback next year in what is widely regarded as a much better quarterback class than 2025's. And don't think for a second that they wouldn't look at an Arch Manning because, again, not just because of the Manning family and the connection to the city of New Orleans, but because he's considered the best quarterback right now in the class. And if they're drafting in the top 5 or first overall and don't like at all what they saw from Shuck or Rattler, it just makes too much sense. This is a team in a holding pattern who, if they happen to spiral the drain and go down the toilet, I don't think anybody is going to A, be surprised, or B, necessarily get fired over it. They'll go into next year's offseason looking to rebuild around a brand new quarterback. Carolina, third on the board at BetMGM to win the division at 4-1 plus 280 to go to the playoffs, along 50-1 as long as 80-1 to win the NFC. 6.5 wins. We talked about them a little bit a couple weeks ago as well, Kate, because Bryce Young did show some flashes late last season, right? In final 5 games, a passer rating of 94.9, 1,000 yards in the air, 9 touchdowns, and just 3 interceptions. He looked like some things were starting to click and fall into place. I think we even talked when we talked Coach of the Year a couple of weeks ago. Maybe Canales is an outside look in that market. But Carolina as a whole, look, they still didn't really add much on the defensive side of the ball. There's a lot of work left to do there. But if they play above their heads on that side of the ball, and Bryce Young really does start to put some things together, I definitely like an over 6.5 wins. I said a couple weeks ago, this could be a surprise 8, maybe even 9-win team. I don't know about plus 280 to make the playoffs, but I think that would take absolutely everything going perfectly for them this year. But again, in the NFC South, softer schedule because South plays South this year in the interconference play. There is an opportunity, I think, for them to win 7 or 8 games, and 6.5 is the win total. I think I would lean over here and think about placing the bet.
I would lean over here as well. I think they can get to 7, 8 games this season. I mean, everything you just mentioned of building on the momentum last year, like for Bryce Young to be benched early on in the season and then come back and still be able to play at a high level and maybe live up to the expectations that he had as the number 1 overall pick. That's probably not quite what we've seen yet, but like he got back on track and started playing really well at the end of the season. And now you add Tetro McMillan to that receiving core. Like he's got a decent, I want to say Xavier Legette should be pretty good this year. Adam Thielen, I mean, he's been in the league forever. He's reliable, but he's getting older. Like what is he going to bring this year? How much does he really have left in the tank? But I think you have a fairly strong offense if Bryce Young can pick up where he left off last year. And I do think Dave Canales is a good head coach. It took him a little bit of time to get going, figure things out, so to speak. But again, you're playing in this division where these teams are beatable. We talk about strength of divisions all the time, and the NFC South is time and time again one of the weaker divisions in the league. And so, I mean, even having the Saints twice this season, like I think you could chalk both of those up as wins for Carolina. I'd have to look at exactly where they are in the schedule and, you know, if people are coming off buys, things like that, rest spots. Actually, they do play at New Orleans week 15 coming off the Panthers are coming off a bye in week 14 before that. So that's a good setup spot there, especially playing on the road. So I think you could get to over 6.5 wins for them. I'm not sure I'd take the Panthers to win the division 4-1. I know I did just say it is a little bit more of a wide open division, but I think the Bucs and the Falcons are a step above the Panthers in terms of who I would like to win this division for talent-wise reasons. So I think you play the Panthers win total over and end it at that.
Yeah, I think it's open in so much as there's a shot for a second team to make the playoffs from the NFC South, depending on what goes down around the rest of the NFC. Certainly Atlanta would be in that conversation. And like I said, if everything goes well in Carolina, they could still be in that conversation maybe late in the year. But I think that's why that's plus 280 at BetMGM to make the playoffs. It's still a longer shot. Speaking of teams in the NFC South, though, who I still don't think have done enough on the defensive side of the ball and have a young quarterback on the offensive side of the ball, Atlanta is one of those teams. Plus 240 to win the division, plus 150 to go to the playoffs. 7.5 wins set as the total, though. It's really a question about how Michael Penix Jr. continues to develop. They've got Bijan Robinson. They've got Kyle Pitts. They've got the weapons, Drake London on the offensive side of the ball, but still a lot of holes, a very top-heavy defense. Jesse Bates in the secondary is great. You go out and get Jalen Walker with your first-round pick. That's nice, but too many holes on the defensive side of the ball. And again, do we get some sort of second-year regression from Michael Penix Jr.'s first full year as the starter?
Yeah, I think a lot of this is going to hinge on the defense and some of the rookies that Atlanta drafted. James Pierce Jr., they drafted Jalen Walker. What does their growth look like this year, and how much of a impact do they play on that defensive side? Because it's the pass rush for the Falcons that has struggled in the past couple of years. And if you don't have a pass rush, like it's going to be hard to win too many games, right? You said it. The offense is there. I've been a massive fan of Michael Penix Jr. back to his Washington days. So I like to think that he is able to have a little bit more, or not more necessarily, but continue to grow this year as the full-time starter, not coming in halfway through the season, not sitting behind Kirk Cousins, but like this is his team now. And if he can have the confidence to like fully take the reins here, which I'm confident he can, I think this is a team that maybe you do look at for winner of the NFC South, just because there's a little bit more value there than the Bucs. And with the Bucs and Tristan Wirfs, their tackle out to start the season, like does that hinder their start to the year at all? Where the Falcons, I think, could be a team that wins this division, despite having this be the first year of Penix's full first season in the NFL.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that's an important pivot to the idea of the Bucs and where they finish up. Not just Wirf's absence, but Baker Mayfield, Liam Cohen unlocked a lot of things with Baker Mayfield last year. And even though we talked a lot about the Bucs a couple of weeks ago when we were looking at a couple different award markets and win totals, they're at 9.5 wins. The beginning of the schedule, like you said, now all 4 teams in this division have a top 10 easiest schedule. Saints are 3rd easiest, Falcons 4th easiest, Panthers 7th easiest, Bucs 10th easiest. So again, they play each other twice. They play the AFC South as well. An opportunity to stack some wins. But in particular, it comes for the Bucs late in the year. They wrap up the season with the Cardinals at home, the Saints at home, Atlanta at home, 2 against Carolina, and a trip to Miami. I'm not saying that's 6 wins guaranteed, but that's a pretty soft landing at the end of the season post-Thanksgiving for the Bucs. If they get to that point 6-4, I mean, there's a chance for them to win 11 games. A legitimate shot for them to win 11 games. Baker Mayfield finished last year strong, 17 touchdowns and 7 interceptions in his final 7 games, 6 of which they won. Chris Godwin will be back healthy at some point, if not at the very beginning of the year, early in the season. They go out and get Egbuka, who I think has offensive rookie of the year opportunities in front of him, being a part of that receiving core. I really like the Bucs to not run away with the division, but to have a chance. If they stay above 500 through the first 10 games of the season, to win 2 or 3 more games than anybody expects them to.
Yeah, I think so too. I think the biggest thing is like getting through those first couple games without Tristan Wirfs, because he is, protects Baker, his blind side so well that he's kind of Baker's security blanket. I also, Emeka Egbuka, like there's been great things heard about him coming out of off-season workouts of camp. Like he's further along in his, what's the word I'm looking for? Progression. I don't know. Then they initially thought he was going to be at this point as a rookie. And so even if you do have, even if Chris Godwin misses any time to start the season, you have Egbuka. Also, even with Tristan Wirfs out, like this Bucs team has been hearing, I think, how great they are for the last month or so, or how great they can be this season. But Baker's a player that likes to play with a little bit of a chip on his shoulder, right? And so now with Tristan Wirfs out, questions will be rising of like, can this Bucs team survive the first couple weeks without him? And I think that'll add that chip back on, where it almost is better to have doubters going in for a Baker Mayfield-led team than for everyone to be telling Baker and this Tampa Bay team how great they are going into the season. I'm not sure that's exactly what the Bucs want.